everybody, and welcome to Derry, Londonderry 2016. I thought I'd start the festival with a look back on what the last 12 months has been like for women here in Derry, Londonderry, in the North, in the Republic, and for women and girls around the world. Can everyone hear me okay first? Kathleen, give me a thumbs up. Can you hear me? Yeah. How about if I speak a bit louder?
That's good.
Yeah? We're good? Okay. So I wanted to set some context for why we're all here today. So all of the following has happened in the last 10 months since we had our last WOW Festival here. So what is life like if you are a woman or a girl in 2016? Well, 1/3 of us can expect to be sexually or physically assaulted. And 90% of rapes in the UK are perpetrated by a man known to the victim. Despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary, the idea of a scary stranger rapist remains foremost in people's minds when they hear the word rape. Up to 70% of women have experienced physical or sexual violence from an intimate partner. Women with a health problem or a disability are particularly at risk, with 34% of women in this category reporting having experienced physical or sexual violence from a partner in their lifetime, compared to 19% of women without a health problem or a disability. Earlier this month, the New York Times reported that over half of all UK schoolgirls have been sexually harassed. So what is happening to these girls as a result? Sorry, Shani, but I forgot to put click in, so can you click to the next one? Yeah, thanks. A study released yesterday by the NHS found that 12.6% of women aged between 16 and 24 screen positive for post-traumatic stress disorder, 19.7% self-harm, and 28.2% have a mental health condition. That is over a quarter of the young women in the UK. An inquiry into the state of mental health in England found alarming evidence that more women aged between 16 and 24 are experiencing mental health problems than ever before, with sexual violence, childhood trauma, and pressures from social media being blamed for dramatic increases in the number of women self-harming and experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder or a chronic mental illness. When Trinity College in Dublin recently introduced mandatory consent classes, there was outcry in the media, with journalists suggesting it was patronising to young men to offer consent classes, even though, according to even their own statistics, a quarter of Trinity's female students will be victims of sexual assault. It is shocking to think that the media deemed men's supposed need not to be patronised over women's physical and emotional and sexual well-being. In March this year, a rape victim's letter went viral, with over 11 million views. The attacker, Brock Turner, was given an extremely lenient sentence and only served 3 months in jail, getting out earlier this month. The way the case was handled and the judge's ruling are direct results of rape culture. Rape culture can loosely be defined as the many ways which male sexual violence is normalised by society while victims are blamed. As Twitter commentator Louise Curry pointed out after Turner's sentencing, I see a pattern emerging in rape culture that suggests women have a past while men have potential. The prevalence of victim blaming can be linked directly to low rates of reporting of sexual crimes. Only of every 100 rapes, only 32 are reported to the police, 7 men will be arrested, and only 2 will be convicted. That's 2 in 100 men who will experience consequences for their crimes against women. In the last year alone, there has been a 22% increase in sexual offences in the UK, and reported rapes in England and Wales have jumped 31% on the year before. So to put this into a local context, the Donegal Rape Crisis Centre received 2,000 calls in the first 6 months of last year. This rape culture stems from a desire to control women's bodies, and we saw evidence of this recently here in the North when DUP MP Sammy Wilson suggested that some women who want to be able to breastfeed at work are voyeuristic and, in his words, not motivated by the need to feed a baby. As if new mums have nothing better to do than flash their male work colleagues. On the plus side, we've increased by 50% the number of women MLAs, and there are now no men-only committees in Stormont. And we have 4 women ministers as well as a woman First Minister. So some small progress is being made to address the inequality of political representation. In other areas, though, not so much. In the world of entertainment, online trolls just couldn't handle the idea of Ghostbusters being remade with all-female leads. A torrent of hateful, misogynistic and racist abuse was heaped upon the stars, with so much abuse being pelted at Leslie Jones that she just left Twitter. And this poor guy seems to be forgetting that it was a woman who gave birth to him, so if we ruin everything... Meanwhile, there was a terror alert in France. Everyone was panicking and wondering what to do about all the ISIL terrorists. But fear not, France had a great plan. France decided that forcing women to remove their clothes on the beach would solve things. Luckily, the Nice court saw sense and overruled this ridiculous and sexist ban. Bans were working in favour of women in other places when London Mayor Sadiq Khan banned body-shaming ads from London transport. We can only hope that such a ban is rolled out in other cities. So I thought this would be a good time to have a quick explanation, and I'll just preface this with the fact that this was done for the Schools Day yesterday, most of this presentation. Shawnee, can you click on to the next one, please? So I was going to just explain what a misogynist is: a dislike of, contempt or ingrained prejudice against women. And the reason I'm giving you this explanation is because earlier this year, Nottingham Police made it a hate crime to be misogynistic. The police announced that crimes ranging from harassment in the street to aggressive physical approaches will be recorded as hate crimes, becoming the first force in the country to change its definition to include misogyny. So they now define misogynistic hate crime as incidents against women that are motivated by an attitude of a man towards a woman that includes behaviour targeted towards women by men simply because they are a woman. How great is that? So this leads me nicely into feminism. What is it? Why do I want to be one? And almost more importantly, how do I make sure that I only ever date one? So feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the ground of the equality of the sexes. So it's worth repeating the last bit again for anyone who thinks that feminism means that women want to have more. It's on the grounds of the equality of the sexes. And Sweden did a beautiful thing this year when they gifted every 16-year-old a copy of Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's book, We Should All Be Feminists. Go Sweden. Meanwhile, that paragon of women's rights, Donald Trump, stated that women deserve some form of punishment for having abortions. There was such outcry over his statement that he was compelled to retract it. What's interesting about this, though, is that in Ireland and Northern Ireland, punishing women for having abortions is exactly what happens. So we find ourselves with laws that are considered too much for even Trump supporters. Despite these outdated laws, though, there was some progress in legal circles with Denise McBride QC and Siobhan Keegan QC appointed as High Court judges. This would be pretty great in itself, except for they're actually the first female High Court judges to be appointed in the history of the judiciary in Northern Ireland. We could go on and on about the rampant sexism shown in the Rio Olympics, but amongst the many, many examples, these two stood out for me. On the left is a newspaper clipping announcing in large font that Phelps, a man, tied for silver, whilst underneath in smaller writing is the news that Katie Ledecky, a woman, had set a world record. And Simone Biles, responding to interviewers referring to her as the next Usain Bolt by saying, "No, I'm not. I'm the first Simone Biles." Woo. So it wasn't all bad this year, and I'm going to leave you with a couple of tweets that women sent to the Everyday Sexism Project. So this one says, "A guy kept harassing me for my phone number, so I gave him the number of another sexist. Figured they'd have a lot in common." Dealing with a complaint, person didn't like amount I offered. "I want to speak to your manager and make sure it's not some woman." "My boss is a woman." "What about her boss?" came the reply. "She is too," I replied. He stated, "I'll complain to the director if I have to." I'm not sure what she'd have to say," I said. He hung up. So that completes my little roundup as to why the things that I think why we need a festival like WOW, and why we need it worldwide, but why we particularly need it in Derry, Londonderry, and across the border, of course, in Donegal as well. So I'm going to hand it over to Claudia here, who's here from South Bank Centre in London, and that's where the WOW Festival is born.
Yes, thank you. Sorry. Hi everyone, I just wanted to give a very quick overview of the WOW Festival globally, just so that you have an idea of the kind of context that the Derry Festival is in. Derry Londonderry. So Derry Londonderry is a really important festival for us, and for all the reasons that Taryn outlined, we're really excited that it's now in its fourth year here. But it's part of a global network of festivals that started in London in 2011. We're now in our 7th year coming up, and we are also in places like Karachi in Pakistan, Kathmandu in Nepal, Baltimore in the USA, which is next weekend, also New York in the Apollo Theatre, and all around the UK in places like Hull, Bradford, Cambridge, and coming up in Perth and Exeter. So it's a festival that is really international, it's going worldwide, and you're part of a network of women all over the world who are interested in and also supporting each other in the fight for gender equality. So we started, as I said, in 2011, and it's a festival of talks and debates and performances, workshops. It's a little bit like Glastonbury for feminists, we hope. So you come, and whether or not you're a feminist, but you know a woman, or you are a woman, or you want to be a woman, you're welcome at WOW. And all ages, all backgrounds, we want to make sure that it's a festival for everyone. So I think you'll see here there's some images from the London Festival which will give you an idea of what it looks like and feels like, but the Derry Festival, as I said, is a really special and important place for us, so we're really excited for the day to start, and thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, that was just a little short introduction there for you. So I'm sure you've all got programs, and you can see that we have a really packed day of lots of different talks, workshops, classes, loads of different things for different people. So up next in here is going to be a panel discussion on the border, Brexit, and the argument body smuggling, if you want to hang about for that. And we'll exit the stage at this point. Thanks very much, everybody.